When you think about the landscape of our culture, um, there are certain figures that feel less like people and more like, I don't know, like geography.
Yeah, like a fixture in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a mountain range. You wake up, you look out the window, and the mountains are just there. You expect them to always be there.
It's a really fascinating psychological phenomenon, honestly. We develop these parasocial relationships where a massive cultural figure just becomes this permanent fixture of your reality.
Right.
There is this deeply ingrained comfort in that permanence. You don't even really question their existence, you know? You just navigate your whole world around them.
But then imagine you wake up one morning, you look at that exact same window, and a mountain is just gone.
Yeah.
That is really the only way I can describe the collective shock to this system that everyone experienced when the news broke.
It was jarring. True.
Okay. It really was. I'm looking through our stack of sources for today's deep dive. We've got medical bulletins, statements from her team, retrospectives on her discography, cultural analyses, and the sheer gravity of it is still just hard to process for me.
I completely agree.
Because on August 25, 2026,
Yeah.
Dolly Parton passed away in Nashville at the age of 80.
It truly was a seismic event. And it's precisely because of that contrast you were just talking about. She possessed this incredibly vibrant, almost invincible public persona.
Yeah, invincible is the perfect word.
Right. So to lose her so suddenly creates this profound dissonance for people. And really, our mission for this deep dive is to try and resolve some of that dissonance for you.
Exactly.
Because while the news is undeniably tragic, if we can understand the context of her life and the reality of her final days, the hidden struggles she faced, it helps. Understanding the true scope of her career and legacy really helps us process the loss of such a monumental icon.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at these timeline documents we have, to say the public was blindsided is a massive understatement.
Oh, absolutely.
This wasn't some prolonged, highly publicized decline where everyone saw it coming. The timeline of her final days is incredibly compressed, and frankly, it's a bit baffling when you look at how she was presenting herself to the world just days prior.
It is a very stark, rapid timeline. The official statements confirm that she had been fighting a short, undisclosed battle with cancer.
Right.
But it wasn't just cancer. This was severely complicated by concurrent kidney and autoimmune problems.
Which is a lot for the body to handle.
It's catastrophic. When you have systemic issues like kidney failure and, autoimmune dysfunction happening at the same time, your body's baseline defenses are already deeply compromised.
And the speed of it is just terrifying.
Yeah.
She was hospitalized on August 21st. 4 days later, on August 25th, she was gone.
Just 4 days.
4 days. But here's the part where I really struggle to make sense of the facts. Just days before her death, before that hospitalization, she was doing interviews.
Yeah, she was.
She spoke publicly about having some health problems, sure, but she was incredibly optimistic. She was actively talking about wanting to keep working, planning new things.
Right.
It feels like watching a high-speed train suddenly hit a wall. But hold on, she was notoriously media trained.
Very true.
Are we sure that optimism was a genuine reflection of her state of mind? Or was it just her PR machine refusing to let the brand look weak? Like, how does someone project that much forward momentum when they are, medically speaking, at the very end?
What's fascinating here is the intersection of psychological armor and the reality of a workaholic's coping mechanisms.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, Dolly Parton's entire public ethos was built on joy, resilience, and uplifting others. For decades, her drive to work, to create, to continuously push forward, that was her primary engine.
Yeah, she never stopped.
Exactly. And in highly driven, creative individuals, work often ceases to be just a job. It becomes their fundamental survival mechanism.
So you're saying the optimism wasn't necessarily some calculated PR lie to the public. It was literally her way of fighting the illness.
Precisely. By focusing on the future and announcing new projects, she was choosing life. She was maintaining her agency.
Wow.
Physiologically, cancer paired with failing kidneys and an autoimmune disorder means her body's immune system was essentially fighting a catastrophic war on multiple fronts. It was failing.
Yeah.
But psychologically, her spirit was still clocking in. She was refusing to concede to the physical reality until her body just simply couldn't sustain the effort anymore.
That dual reality is so jarring to think about. The public sees the signature smile and hears the plans for the future, but privately, the physical toll is mounting to an unbearable degree.
It's tragic.
It really is.
Yeah.
But to really understand why her health may have been so incredibly fragile at 80, we can't just look at August 2026. We have to look back.
We do.
Because her sudden decline wasn't just some random, isolated medical event. Looking at our sources, there is this massive, deeply human, emotional component to this timeline that we have to address.
You're referring to the profound personal loss she endured just the year prior.
Yes.
The passing of her husband, Carl Dean, in March of 2025.
Yes, exactly. They were married for almost 60 years.
6 decades.
6 decades.
Yeah.
And Dolly herself admitted publicly that during his decline, she completely neglected her own health to care for him.
Which is so common.
So common. So I have to challenge the purely clinical narrative here. How much did a broken heart and caregiver burnout contribute to this rapid decline?
That's a great question.
Because reading this, it just seems impossible to separate the emotional trauma of losing her life partner from the physical collapse that followed a year later.
It is entirely impossible to separate them, and honestly, the medical community would agree with you. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are looking at the deeply hidden, often fatal toll of caregiving. If you are listening to this and you've ever had to be the primary caregiver for a declining parent or a sick partner or a disabled loved one, you know exactly what this reality looks like.
It's all-consuming.
It is. The exhaustion isn't just being tired, it is cellular.
It's like running into a burning building for someone you love, and you don't realize how much smoke you've inhaled until you're finally back outside and the adrenaline wears off.
That is a perfect analogy. There is actually extensive medical literature on caregiver syndrome. When you are entirely focused on someone else's survival, your own doctor's appointments, your own rest, your own stress management, they all just disappear.
You completely deprioritize yourself.
Exactly. And chronic, unyielding stress floods the body with cortisol. Over a prolonged period, cortisol actively suppresses the immune system and exacerbates any existing systemic issues.
And we already know she had underlying autoimmune and kidney issues brewing.
Exactly. Add to those physical vulnerabilities the profound, shattering grief of losing a partner of nearly 60 years.
I can't even imagine.
Grief of that magnitude is a massive physiological stressor. It negatively impacts heart function, immune response, and cognitive energy.
So it's a perfect storm.
It really is. You create a biological environment where an opportunistic, fast-moving illness like cancer can just take hold and spread rapidly without any real resistance.
It's heartbreaking. It completely recontextualizes her final year for me. She wasn't just this aging superstar maintaining a brand.
No.
She was a widow trying to find her footing in a world without her anchor, throwing herself back into her work just to survive the grief.
It grounds this larger-than-life, untouchable icon in a struggle that is intimately familiar to millions of families. The tragedy of her death isn't just medical.
Right.
It is the deeply human tragedy of a devoted partner who gave everything to her husband, arguably at the ultimate cost of her own physical longevity.
And that pivot to her work, the fact that she threw herself back into creating is exactly where we need to focus next.
Absolutely.
Because to truly process the magnitude of August 25, 2026, we have to understand what the world actually lost.
Yes, the legacy.
Everyone listening to this knows the name Dolly Parton. But if you only view her as a caricature, if you only see the big hair, the sparkly outfits, and the larger-than-life personality, you're entirely missing the foundation of her genius.
That is a crucial distinction to make. The persona was a brilliant presentation, yes, but it rested on a bedrock of pure, undeniable songwriting brilliance and cultural influence.
Yeah.
She was one of the most influential figures in the history of country music, not just as a performer, but literally as an architect of the genre itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources we have highlight 3 specific massive hits: Jolene, 9 to 5, and I Will Always Love You.
The Holy Trinity.
Right. And I want to provide a dedicated beginner's guide to her legacy right now. Even if you've heard these songs 1,000 times in passing, we need to talk about the mechanisms behind them.
Definitely.
Like, why are these 3 specific tracks the definitive beginner's syllabus to understanding her power? Let's start with Jolene. On the surface, it's a catchy song about jealousy. What is the underlying mechanism that makes it culturally monumental?
Well, Jolene is a masterclass in emotional subversion. Musically and lyrically, it totally defies the expectations of its era.
How do you mean?
In traditional country music up to that point, if another woman was a threat to a relationship, the song's narrator usually reacted with anger or aggression or a threat. It was combative.
Right. The typical "stay away from my man or I'll make you regret it" posture. It's about projecting strength.
But Dolly completely flips the script. Jolene is not a threat. It is a desperate plea.
Yeah, she's begging.
The mechanism that makes it brilliant is this weaponized vulnerability. She spends the song complimenting her rival, acknowledging Jolene's immense beauty, and basically admitting her own feelings of total inadequacy.
She's literally begging, please don't take him just because you can.
Exactly. It's almost like showing your throat to a predator. The raw insecurity of it is staggering.
It really is.
To write a hit song where the narrator is entirely powerless, entirely at the mercy of another woman's whims, that was revolutionary.
It's so counterintuitive for a pop hit.
It is, and it transcended country music and became a global phenomenon because the feeling of not being enough, that fear of being replaced by someone seemingly perfect, is a universally understood human terror.
We've all felt it.
Exactly. She distilled a complex, shameful insecurity into this relentlessly driving, urgent melody.
And the pacing of it. The song just launches immediately into that desperate chorus. It mimics the feeling of a panic attack, of a racing heartbeat. It's just brilliant.
It really is.
Okay, let's look at the second song in our beginner's guide, I Will Always Love You. I think a lot of people mistakenly view this as just a standard, sad breakup ballad. Why is that the wrong read?
It's the wrong read because the song isn't actually rooted in bitterness or betrayal or some romantic disaster.
Okay.
The mechanism of I Will Always Love You is the articulation of a mature, necessary departure. It's about the complex emotion of outgrowing a situation or a partnership.
So it's not about being dumped. It's about making the active choice to walk away.
Yes, but walking away while still deeply honoring the bond you shared. The lyrics acknowledge that staying would be the wrong choice for both parties, but it removes the anger from the separation.
That's incredibly hard to do.
It is. To write a pop song that says, I am leaving you to pursue my own path, but I genuinely wish you joy, happiness, and love, requires a profound level of emotional intelligence.
It's an incredibly high-level boundary to set. It's basically saying, my independence is non-negotiable, but my affection for you remains intact.
Exactly.
That is such a rare sentiment in popular music. Usually, pop music relies on the drama of someone being the villain.
Precisely. And that nuance is why it has been covered across so many genres and resonates across generations. It's a masterclass in the bittersweet reality of human relationships.
Okay, that brings us to the third track on our syllabus, which shifts gears entirely. 9 to 5. Now, if you just treat this as a catchy karaoke staple or like a fun song to dance to at a wedding, you are entirely missing the mechanics running under the hood.
Oh, absolutely. 9 to 5 is the moment she proved she could capture the systemic frustrations of the working class and turn them into a mainstream global phenomenon.
It's so smart.
The mechanism of this track is the brilliant juxtaposition of an upbeat, major key pop melody with a biting, relentlessly populist critique of corporate exploitation.
I mean, the lyrics are legitimately radical when you really listen to them.
Yeah.
It's a rich man's game no matter what they call it, and you spend your life putting money in his wallet. She's directly addressing the alienation of labor.
She is. She became a vocal champion for the working class, specifically targeting the overlooked and underpaid labor of working women.
Right.
The song captures the systemic trap of corporate structures, that feeling of giving your mind and your body to a system that views you as totally disposable.
But I have to push back a little here. Isn't there a deep irony to all this? You're calling 9 to 5 a subversive pro-labor anthem, but it's literally played at corporate retreats and office parties. Did the message just get lost in the melody?
That is the genius of the Trojan horse she created.
Oh, I see what you mean.
By wrapping a bitter pill of class consciousness in an undeniably joyful, toe-tapping rhythm, she bypassed the defenses of the very corporate structure she was critiquing.
They didn't even realize they were singing along to their own roast.
Exactly. People sang along because it felt good, but the lyrics planted a seed of solidarity. That duality subversive, empowering messaging disguised as lighthearted entertainment is the very essence of Dolly Parton's career.
So if we look at this beginner's guide, we have the raw, desperate vulnerability of Jolene, the mature emotional boundaries of I Will Always Love You, and the working class solidarity of 9 to 5.
It's quite a spectrum.
It paints a picture of an artist who possessed the sheer empathy to speak to literally any facet of the human condition.
It does. Her songwriting was a bridge that connected vastly different demographics.
And I think that idea of connecting people is the perfect way to transition to the final part of her legacy.
Definitely.
Because a true beginner's guide to understanding the cultural weight of Dolly Parton cannot stop at the music. If we only talk about the hits, we are only telling half the story of why August 25, 2026 felt like such a massive personal blow to the world.
Absolutely.
She wasn't just an entertainer holding a mirror up to society. She was actively trying to fix the cracks in it. She became equally famous for her philanthropy.
Yes, her philanthropic footprint is staggering. And it wasn't just performative charity for good PR, it was deeply personal, highly structured, and aggressively focused on a singular goal.
The primary focus of her giving, according to the sources, was children's literacy.
Yes. She built a massive organizational framework dedicated to early childhood literacy. The premise was revolutionary in its simplicity and its scale.
Which was mailing books, right?
Exactly, ensuring that children, regardless of their family's economic status, received free, high-quality, age-appropriate books mailed directly to them every single month, from birth until they began school.
Let's talk about the mechanics of that for a second. Why literacy? It's easy for celebrities to throw money at vague causes, but she zeroed in on teaching toddlers to read. From a systemic perspective, why does that matter so much?
Because early childhood literacy is the ultimate social equalizer. Neurologically and sociologically, the presence of books in a home during the first 5 years of a child's life fundamentally alters their cognitive development.
Wow.
It builds vocabulary, it fosters critical thinking, and it prepares the brain for formal education.
Oh.
By targeting children from birth before they even step foot in a classroom, she was dismantling the educational deficit that usually traps families in generational poverty.
She was basically bypassing the systemic failures of the education system and delivering the solution directly to the child's mailbox.
Exactly. And her efforts expanded globally, resulting in hundreds of millions of books being distributed to children around the world. It is a staggering logistical and financial achievement.
So what does this all mean? When you look at a legacy that is split evenly between writing global, chart-topping hits that dissect the human condition and mailing hundreds of millions of books to toddlers so they can develop the cognitive tools to build a better life. How do we even categorize a cultural figure like that?
This raises an important question about how we measure the worth and the permanence of a celebrity in our modern culture. Usually we measure them by their output metrics.
Right, like record sales or concert gross or chart positions.
Exactly. And Dolly had all of that in spades. But her philanthropy is what solidified her status as a beloved, universally respected icon across all political and cultural divides.
Because her actions actually matched the warmth of her public persona.
Exactly. In a deeply fractured world where celebrity often breeds cynicism, she maintained universal approval because the joy and empathy she sold in her music were entirely genuine.
It wasn't an act.
It wasn't. She utilized the immense wealth and platform generated by her musical genius to quietly, consistently, and systematically improve the lives of millions of children she would never even meet. It is the ultimate subversion of the celebrity ego.
You reach the absolute pinnacle of fame and wealth, and instead of building a taller fence to keep people out, you build a longer table.
Well said. And that is why her loss at 80 years old hit us with the undeniable force that it did. We didn't just lose a legendary singer, we lost a stabilizing force of goodwill.
Let's bring this all together. On August 25, 2026, the world abruptly lost an 80-year-old cultural icon.
Yes.
We lost a woman who spent her final year quietly enduring the agonizing grief of losing her husband of 60 years. A woman who neglected her own well-being to care for him, ultimately managing her own hidden medical battles with severe kidney and autoimmune issues.
It's just so much weight to carry.
It is. And yet, she faced a rapid, fatal bout with cancer, not by retreating into the shadows, but by looking forward. Giving interviews, talking about the future, and projecting that fierce, signature optimism right up until days before her hospitalization.
She was a spirit that refused to concede to her physical limitations until the very last moment.
We are mourning the masterful architect behind the vulnerability of Jolene, the independence of I Will Always Love You, and the solidarity of 9 to 5.
And we are mourning the benefactor who armed millions of children with the ability to read.
But mostly, we are mourning the sudden absence of a mountain we all thought would just always be there.
It is the abrupt halt of a life that was still so visibly in motion, still creating, despite the unseen physical and emotional burdens she was carrying.
Which leaves me with one final thought. Something for you listening to really mull over as you go about your day.
I'm curious.
If Dolly Parton was so fiercely optimistic, if her psychological coping mechanism for fighting her illness was to actively plan new projects, do interviews, and look to the future right up until the very week she died. What unreleased work, what final creative visions, or what parting gifts might she have quietly left behind in those final busy days?
Oh, wow. That's...
There is a very real chance that the world has yet to discover the last things she created for us. Because a creative engine with that much forward momentum doesn't just stop instantly. It leaves echoes.
That is a fascinating prospect. I suspect her archives hold profound things we haven't even seen yet.
I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Take care.